Hi, hello, welcome back. So we are continuing on with the water in soaping deep dive playlist thing today, and we are piggybacking off of what we did in the first video, which was testing water, talking about the idea of full water, and seeing just how far we could push the boundaries of a soap based on how much water we can add to a batch of soap, right? Now, remember, really all you ever need in soap is 1 part water to 1 part lye to make sure that the lye gets properly dissolved and can then be distributed through your soaping oils. So we tested 2 times water, 3 times water, and 4 times water. And I did talk about in that video how I believe that technically you can add too much water because at some point, if the water equals the oils, it's going to be a floppy, mess, probably. I've never actually tested that, but this is my thinking. So, anyway, today we are going to go the opposite way with this, and we are going to talk about water reductions, so water discounts, what water discount means, what we should be looking for when we discount our water, why we should discount our water, and all of those things. But I will tell you more about all of said things in just a minute. Before I do, hello, I am Mrs. Soap and Clay. Let's make stuff. How's it going, Sudsers? Welcome back to the channel. You are at Soap and Clay, where we make all the soapy things, and you are here for week 11 of year 3, and today we are continuing on with our all things water in soap deep dive playlist, as I said. And I'm always very bad at this, so should this be your very first video coming to the channel, hi, welcome. Here at Soap and Clay, we are Sudsers, and we all have very similar mindsets in that while we are wildly different people, just across the board, we have different ideals and beliefs and, ways of approaching life. We like to approach our soap making and our cosmetic making logically and rationally and scientifically. And so I lend my scientific brain to this process, whenever I can, and hopefully explain it in a way that's a little bit more concise than my normal videos within these playlists. And in this particular playlist, we are again talking about a part of soap making that is necessary. You absolutely need a liquid in order to dissolve your lye to make a lye solution in which to add to the oils and, achieve saponification and soap. But it's something that's very confusing. People talk about it in wildly different ways all of the time. And there's always just a lot of misconception about it surrounding the idea of how much liquid is enough, how much is too much, how much is too little, all of the things. So that's what we're doing within this playlist, really discussing all of the different aspects of the idea of water or liquid in soap making and how you can sort of manipulate that factor within soap to your advantage. So as I said yesterday, we did the increase of the water, so 2 times, 3 times, and 4 times the amount of lye required for the soaping oils. And today we're going to do the reverse. We are going to do water reductions. So we will be testing bars at 1.5 times the lye, 1 times the lye, and 0.5 times the lye. Now remember, 1 part water, 1 part lye is what you absolutely need in a soap recipe in order to make sure that the soap is going to saponify, the lye is going to be completely used up, consumed within the process, and it's going to be a safe soap. And I'm going to show you what happens when you break that rule. And, hopefully I don't explode. But let's get to the video and we'll see if I do. Okay, so in the last video, we tested soaps with lye concentrations, or, water at 2 times the lye, 3 times the lye, and 4 times the lye. And today, we're going to go backwards with it. And we are going to test 1.5 times the lye, 1 time the lye, and 0.5 times the lye. Now remember, as I've said, in order to actually get a good, lye solution, you need at least as much water as lye in order for it to, well, dissolve and stay an aqueous solution and not one that will resolidify. And you're going to see just how important that is, with this 0.5 times lye solution, really. And I did go ahead and switch it down to grams to give you guys, both with all of this, because with something like this, with such a small amount of oil that you're working with, 4 ounces, therefore a small amount of lye and water, you are going to, you're going to want to be a little bit more precise with all of this. And so switching to grams for small amounts, usually a good idea. Now, with the lye concentrations, as we talked about yesterday, full water, that's not really a thing. Some soap makers tend to believe or tend to count it at 38% of the total oil weight. I find that to be a very ineffective and nothing unit of measurement, so I prefer to go with lye concentration or, water to lye. And I tend to soap at 2.4 times water to lye. And I do that, again, because of the clays that I put in it. But there are tons of reasons that you would want to discount your water. Now, this is probably something that you should play with once you have, several batches of soap under your belt and you understand the process and your oils and the pour and, emulsion and all the things. But when you do have that, water discounts can be super beneficial for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is going to be it shortens cure time because there's less soap or less water to evaporate from the soap. It is what it is, and I really don't care that people continue to say otherwise. That's science. Another reason when you might want to reduce the amount of water in a soap batch is going to be when you are, let's say, putting in a puree into your soap batter after you've hit emulsion, or an alcohol into your soap batter after you've hit emulsion. Definitely a good idea if you don't want an increased water content. Another reason, obviously, the easy ones are going to be for glycerin rivers. You're less likely to have glycerin rivers if you reduce your water amount, and as well as soda ash. Also less likely to get soda ash if you have less water. Now the reason for that is because with the extra water, the lye essentially, it has to work harder in an extra water solution, right? To find its, fatty acid counterparts and do the saponification thing. When you have reduced water, that's not the case. The lye is there, it's ready to go, it's not having to work hard at all. And so for that reason, it becomes thicker faster when you are dealing with, lye concentrations at this level. I am going to go ahead and put in, again, some colorants in all of this so we can really see what's going on as opposed to just a nice white bar of soap, and see what we are working with for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is when you have reduced water in your soap recipe, you're more likely to hit a gel phase without actually having to put it in the oven or do anything, specific with it. So we're going to see just how true that is. For me, I really have no idea with this. I've honestly never tested it. I've just heard tell that's what happens because I C-pop all of my soaps. Now, the soaps in the upper right-hand corner there, as you can see, those are the soaps that I poured from the last video. They are all going to sit out on the counter with these ones overnight in a very cold room, not being C-popped, not going through gel, just sitting out. We want to see what each of the different waters do to, these bars of soap. Okay, now on to the pour of this, and first up, this is the 0.5 times. So half of the lye in water. And as you can see, it's real weird. It's starting to look like the menthol crystals, really. And while I have said in a lot of instances, like there are soap makers that like strain their lye because they got like little lye whatevers on the top. I don't do that. That literally does all come out in the wash or the mix, as it were, because you have that stir stick in there and it's breaking apart all of those little itty bitty, just residual floaties that are on top of your lye solution. But with this, I don't think it's going to do that. And as much as I work it in, I'm never going to get like a fully liquid solution here because that lye is essentially not as pissed off as it should be and separated. So yeah, that's a bad time. That's not going to go well. This is the real reason. So now you know. This is the real reason why you don't ever really want to mess with a solution of, 0.5 times water to lye. It's not a good idea. So again, always work with at least 1 part water to 1 part lye. And we're going to see the 1 part water to 1 part lye, coming up. But this is definitely an interesting experiment. And to be perfectly honest with you, as I was doing this and putting it in, I knew that there was no way that saponification was going to properly break apart any of these lye, globs of crap, really, into all of this to yield, a clear and like safe bar of soap. But in this instance, this is one of the very few wherein you are making an unsafe bar of soap. And, I guess we'll see when we actually, get to the cut and the test and see if I decide that I want to test this on my hands. Spoiler alert, I do not. But there are so many instances wherein I see a, soap that someone has sent me or has put up on the Discord or in a soap forum or, what have you. And there's maybe some seepage going on or there's, whatever. And it never fails. At least one person is like, oh, it could be lye pockets. No. In normal circumstances, when you have at least as much water to lye and you have it, actually hit an emulsion with your soap, it's going to become soap and you're not going to have lye pockets. I have literally never seen lye pockets in soap unless I'm actively trying to get them. Like in the case of this particular video, for example. And so when you are dealing with your water discounts, again, you can play around with them and bring them down to certain levels, but just keep in mind that 1-to-1, you definitely need to hit that. There is no circumstance wherein you can ever go below that. Period. It's not a good idea. It's not going to be fun for your skin. It's going to be, really akin to what soap makers have been sort of seen as kind of forever, because, our grandmas and our great-grandmas made soap, right? But they didn't have all the cool scientific stuff, and they didn't have recipes and stuff. They basically did a percentage of the oils for the lye, a percentage of the oils for the water, and everything was basically fine. Is the soap going to be safe? I mean, it's not going to burn your skin off, but it's definitely going to irritate it. This is something that I personally would not attempt using on my skin. And as you might remember in some of these tests, I have chosen to use a lot of weird stuff on my skin that other people would, just not find to be a good idea. But I've tested it. For that particular one, I'm not going to test it. Now the 1-to-1, as you can see, no real problems happened with that. It was an easy pour. It was an easy mix. Everything was good. And for the 1.5, also everything is going very, very well. 1.5 would realistically be my sweet spot for most water discounts, unless I was using a water discount to create a certain design within the soap. So a portion of the lye is at a water discount and the rest is not. Because it does get thick really fast. And as you all know, I do not like thick soap batter. I like very, very fluid soap batter just across the board. So for me, anything under 1.5, I really don't want to mess with, especially when you're combining, the clays that I put into all the soaps. And clays, they like to soak up water, and so they're taking away a not insignificant percentage of the water anyway. But, we need to test these and see what they did. Okay, and on to the reveal of these, and I did not point it out in yesterday's or in the previous video, but you can totally tell that they have more water in them just based on how, much they fill the container there, right? And with this guy, yeah, that's super dark. I mean, the good news is it definitely went through gel, right? that was a gel for sure. You can see how the color is darker and it's also a shinier bar. And so if you're looking for a guaranteed gel all the time, try reducing your water content for sure. But with this particular one, I see some lye, just like, again, they look like menthol crystals. It's very interesting. Now this is the 1X. I don't hate this. Honestly, it's a nice firm bar. For sure. We've got some overheating kind of going on the sides, and this was not put through gel. Remember, this was left on the counter in a very cold room. And so that's very interesting, but the look in and of itself, it's very smooth. It's a very firm bar. It's going to cure up very quickly. And this one at 1.5, this is when you start to develop the soda ash, and you start to see that that's, going on. And so that's something to keep in mind as well. So kind of seems like if you're really wanting to ensure a gel all the time, anywhere between 1 and 1.5 would really do it. But all these bars are very, very firm. There's nothing really wrong with them as far as they didn't hit an emulsion, which would be an easy thing to spot. And I think I've done a video on it before showing, how that all works. Actually, I know I have. So with the lye heavy soaps that essentially didn't go through an emulsion, you can tell right away, and one of the ways that you can tell is that it just breaks apart immediately. With these, none of these 6 bars that were done broke apart. So an emulsion was hit, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're safe. And these, I guess we're going to see, and unfortunately my camera oh my gosh, I guess my lighting is just a little bit bad for all of this. But you know what? When we pH test, we tend to not use the strips anyway because they are not the most accurate things that you could use. So it doesn't super matter that all of those look very, very similar. That one there with the 0.5 to 1, that's sitting, for me, I'm looking at it, with the better lighting, and it's real bad. It's sitting at like an 11 or a 12. I forget what I wrote down. I will tell you. But we're going to go to the actual pH tester with all of this. 11.4. That's what it ended up as with the 0.5 to 1 lye. And the 1-to-1 looks like it's going to clock in at 10.4, 10.3. Okay, that's expected. That's exactly what we were looking at with yesterday's bars as well. And samesies with the 1.5. So, as we can see, reducing the amount of water, so therefore, a more potent lye concentration, is not actually dangerous for the soap. It doesn't mean that you're going to have a bad, batch of soap. It really does have a lot to do with what kind of design you want, what your end goals are for your soap, and, whether or not you want things like glycerin rivers and, well, that on the other end of the spectrum. Like, you can see all of the pockets in there. Those are lye pockets right there. Those are lye pockets, and I am not testing that. I am not going to put that on my skin. I am not in the mood to be burned today. But yeah, so there can be some danger when you are dealing with a water discount. And remember, water discounts mean precisely that. You notice that in all of these recipes, the lye itself never changed. The lye was the same for all 6 bars that we did, because we're not playing with the lye amounts. We are using the exact amount of lye that is needed for saponification, and we are adjusting the water levels to suit our needs. So water discounts can be done pretty extremely, and water increases can also be done pretty extremely. Now in the next 2 videos in this playlist, we're going to talk about really why you would want to do either one of them. And there it is, 3 bars of soap playing with water discounts. And yeah, that one at 0.5 times the amount of lye, it's not a good one. You have seen, for any sudsers that have been around, have seen me test some very suspect bars of soap on my hands, and I'm not touching that guy. That was not going to happen. I was not going to get that wet. I saw active lye pockets. And those are lye pockets. That's what they look like. And so when you see little bumps on your soap or little flecks of something, probably it's not a lye pocket unless you have done something very strange like this and added essentially what looks like menthol crystals to your soaping oils. Now, a little clump of like the residual lye on top of a lye solution here and there, completely fine, because that literally will blend out in the batch because of the use of, your stick blender. But for something like this, yeah, that was not going to work. And we showed just how much that doesn't work. But to the 1 times and the 1.5 times, yeah, there is definitely a case to be made for water discounts in soap making. Obviously, for something like cure, it definitely speeds up cure, helps out with that for sure, helps out with unmolding faster, which is kind of a whatever thing because you can just shove your soap into the, freezer and it can unmold just as fast. Pro tip. But it also ensures a gel phase without you having to actually do the whole C-pop thing and put it into the oven and whatnot. There are a number of benefits for a water discount in soaps, for sure. And I'm going to be showing you some real-time examples of the benefits for both a water discount as well as a water addition coming up, because it's nice to have real-time examples of what that actually looks like in practice, both within doing a method, like a hot process or a cold process, but also within designs, because by manipulating the water, you can actually have some really cool designs. So that's what tomorrow is going to be. It's going to be focused on actual examples of how you can use water reduction or water additions to your favor, for sure, and really playing with those lye concentrations to create something very, very fun. So I hope you come back to see that. Those will be 2 videos that will be dropped back to back tomorrow, just like these ones were. So there is that. Yes, for sure. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. It's been kind of a lot. It's been a lot of fun. The scientific, process of all of this is always a good time for me, but it's not great when, I'm sick and I have to talk about what it is that I did, several weeks ago. You get it. But thank you for being okay with all of that anyway. I really appreciate you. An obvious, big, extra special thank you to my sudsers. You are the real ones. You are amazing. Thank you for existing. Thank you for holding down the Discord while I have been covered in soaping oils or the stuff that's coming from my nose, in different parts of the day. Not at the same time, because that's gross. You get it. While I have been, sick and busy, I haven't been able to type much in the Discord. So thank you for holding down the fort. I appreciate you. As I said, I am out of here, but I will see you guys all again tomorrow for part 3 and part 4 of all things water and soap. Soapy fun. Bye.